Welcome, welcome, family. Welcome to another edition of The Journey with Hamptonio. Like I stated before, we always try to bring you good information that you can use to make you think and to make you go out there, hopefully, and do some research because that's what it's all about. Because these is interesting times now, trying times, and we can get out there and try to accumulate as much wealth as we want. But if you don't have your health, it's not worth nothing. Now your health is priceless, and we always try to talk about the health, because with a sound body, it's gonna give you a sound mind to do what you have to do. Because we have to understand it is all together, mind, body, spirit, all that is related. Until one of my teachers in dealing with health, he said that to heal the physical man, you got to heal the spiritual and the mental man as well. So it's all relative. So one of our previous broadcasts, I brought one of my good brothers in, and he just laid it flat on the line and really made us think about a few things about health. And this is part two to that segment that we did, and we're going to talk about something very interesting. So this is something that you want to keep in your archives and share. So. And as we go on this journey that I talk about, we're always going to try to again and bring you something that you can use, and it's going to be beneficial to you and the community. So I'm going to bring my good brother on, and you might recognize him again. There he is, my good brother Dumisani.
Hello, hello. How
Have
you
each
doing?
other.
How
All
you
right,
doing? How you doing?
just a little bit again for those
Yeah,
who
yeah, yeah,
may be the first time seeing my good brother Dumisani. He's a
yeah,
licensed acupuncturist.
yeah.
He's a master of Oriental traditional medicine, Eastern Asian. He's a clinical nutritionist. Okay, he practiced homeopathic medicine and traditions. He has a BA in African American Studies and Political Science, and he has experience over 40 years in this field of medicine. And for 20 years of that, he's been a member of the Asar Set Society, where he's risen to the level of Kariad priesthood and Shechem, which is a role of leadership, and a Hekshem Shuaru for several years. For with his family's connections, he for 5 years he was a part of the ANC, which is the African Nation Congress, which is in South Africa during that whole apartheid situation that was going on down there. And he had I know it was a privilege of working with some African traditional healers, and one in particular, Nanga Nkobo in East Watini. So, but he's also a Vietnam veteran, and over all of that, he's a good brother. He's a good brother, man. I could sit him a friend. I could call him up at any time, and he always have time for me if he's not working, and he really offered up himself to come on and share some information. And he had dropped off the map there for a minute, but he was studying and researching, and now he just compiled on with the information that he already obtained, and he just wanted to disseminate that, with you guys, and he's a part of that. With Dr. Brown, they like a dynamic duo. When you get the other partner on, Amini Harris, it's like a dynamic trio. So these brothers, I respect them to the utmost. And you're going to sit back, relax, and enjoy this, and get you something to write with. My good brother Dumasadi, how you doing, man?
Well, thank you for having me.
Yo,
Yeah, I'm just happy to be alive. I mean, it's a beautiful journey just to be alive. You know,
yeah, I
and,
mean, we all got to be thankful to that now with all the craziness going on, brother.
and when you have good company like around you, it makes it even better.
Yes, sir.
You,
Yes, sir.
you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I'm just really overjoyed just to be alive. And I'm a student, so I'm constantly, researching, digging deeper, trying to find answers. Part of the story, or the backstory, is that when you grow up in a country like America, um, there's a lot of mystery about life because they hide things from you a lot because they don't want you to know things. So um, as we see this current thing going on in Florida right now with the governor talking about, this AP class, right? That on Black History.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Advanced placement class. This is what AP means, right? So this AP class is designed to bring people up to speed on the history of Black people, which is really the history of America. But the way they talk about it's like, well, we're talking about something separate, and there's no separation in history. There's only history that was left out, but there's no American history. And we're just trying to bring the story up to speed with some clarity, and people don't want to hear that, so they try to keep things away from you. So and I mean, it's just part of the strategy they have been using a long time. So that's one of the things we have to, as a people, we need to be steeped in our history, and that's very important. Yeah. That's what I wanted. Yeah, when I went to college back in the day, that was one of the things I wanted to do was find out, like, I want to know my history. So I enrolled in, African American studies. I want to know who we are, where we, what we about, where we came from, And so now, I mean, I don't know if that, it did me well over the years, because it gave me a sense of who I was, and it grounded me in, in whatever situation I went or was experiencing. I was always grounded in this knowledge that I understood my roots and my background and my heritage. And so that made it easy for me. I could go anywhere and be with anyone, anytime, and hold my own, because I felt that there was nothing that I did not, there was nothing I was lacking. So this is, history is very, very important. But anyway, I'm here to talk about health. That's health too. Don't get me. That's
absolutely, health. Brother.
Having a good mind takes work. It just doesn't happen because you want to have a good mind. It takes discipline. It takes work. It takes good food. It takes exercise. Yeah, it takes work. So you ain't gonna have a good mind just because you want to have a good mind. You got to do some work. You got to put the work in. And I've been putting the work in most of my life, and I'm still what you call work in progress. You understand? Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. So just like you, I hear you all the time. You're a work in progress, just like Dr. Brown's a work in progress. And a lot of the people I associate with, they're works in the process, because they are seeing that, like the information and the understanding and the wisdom they have, where they were maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I mean, they could see, this development. Anyway, just as an aside, I'm going to talk a little bit about chemistry a little bit, right? So when I mention that, then everybody started. Okay, no. And again, this is part of the approach that is being used in these educational institutions to make you think that chemistry is some science that is just difficult to grasp. But you know what chemistry is at the core of it is just talking about, I mean, from the A to the Z of chemistry, it just talks about the positive and the negative charge.
Okay.
That's it. That's all it is. I don't care what kind of chemistry you're talking about, and I don't care what kind of, the names they talk, nomenclature they use. It's just hiding the fact that everything in chemistry is about a negative and a positive charge, and how atoms arrange themselves, how molecules arrange themselves. It's all about the negative and the positive charge. And once you understand that, then you understand, like, oh, okay, I got it. But the nomenclature they use and the way they teach you is that they right away they separate that out. So they might hit it a little bit, but then they separate it out. And so by the time you're trying to figure out what's going on, you feel lost because you don't know what the big picture is. Okay? So chemistry is natural. Natural's understanding is day and night, but they make it like it's so difficult because you got these different relationships that, and atoms and molecules that act on, different energies. It's all about the positive and the negative charge. And that's leading me right into what I want to talk about today is that I want to talk about how light, mainly the light that we're exposed to and light that we can pick up, because there's an electromagnetic spectrum of light. And out of that big spectrum of light, we represent this small little visible spectrum that we can see. And that little segment is, that goes from violet to blue to green to yellow to orange to red. That's the visible spectrum. Now, outside of the visible spectrum, you have infrared, you have microwaves. That's gone. Those are more energetic. What happened there? Hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Sorry. That was. Mm-hmm. So you have a spectrum that is very large. So you have the infrared, and then you have the microwave, and then the ultraviolet, and that end of the spectrum with X-rays. Those are all these rays outside that little narrow spectrum. If you're not careful, it could cause you harm as a human, right? But we only see a narrow, a spectrum of visible light. Then you on the other side of other animals, their eyes are set up that they can see different spectrums. Like, serpents can see infrared, right?
No, I didn't know that.
Infrared
at night. Yeah, right. I get you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's heat, right?
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
they see heat. They don't see a color. They see heat. And so they see the shape, but they see heat. So they see the heat signatures, and that's how they move through the world.
I see.
Okay. There's something to be said about the ancients and their ideas of using snakes in their whole system of cosmologics and how they think about their philosophy. And they they introduced this idea of snakes in there, and people are like, it's a serpent. No, they were talking about these qualities that these serpents have. But we're gonna.
That's funny you said that. I just said that today to somebody. I was explaining that in anthropomorphic ways and how they use those things to identify to bring understanding to people.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Now, so what's affecting us on this earth is we got three types of radiation coming off the sun. We got A, we got B, and C, right? A is we get all of that. B, we only get we get some of that, not a lot. The B is the one that damaged people, the sunburn and cause skin cancer. Okay. So it's not a lot of B, but those are the things that it can cause when it's sunlight. The C doesn't come through the earth because the ozone layer blocks that out. So and it's harm. I mean, like you die with that. Okay, so it blocks it out. So we don't get any C except anything coming through the ozone. When we had that ozone hole, that was the danger. But I just recently heard a report where the ozone now the hole has shrunk.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes. So so the thing is about the vitamin D3 is stimulated from the B rays, the ultraviolet B. That's what stimulates the vitamin D3. Okay, and that's we talked about vitamin D3. I think Dr. Brown spoke about it sometimes.
I believe so. Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So the vitamin D3 is it's the thing that prevents the body from it causes it increases your immune system, and it also is involved in like a lot of the organs in your body, like 36 different organs in your body, like the kidneys, the lung, the liver, the uterus, the breast, the prostate gland. I mean, you just go. I mean, it's vitamin D3 is in every cell in the body, and it's in every organ system in the body, everywhere. And deficiency of vitamin D3, of course, it causes cancer. So cancer, prostate cancer, we see a lot of prostate cancer in the Black community. Colorectal cancer, we see a lot of that in the Black community. Breast cancer, multiple myelomas, rheumatoid arthritis, and a whole host of immune system diseases, because vitamin D3 is what stimulates your immune system. Now, vitamin D3 is it comes from the sun, and the amount that you absorb is based on the less or the greater amount of melanin that you have in your skin. It takes longer to penetrate and be absorbed into the skin, because the melanin is a sunblock. Okay. So if you notice, places in the world where people did not wear a lot of clothes, their skins were darker. Okay. And through history and over time, they realized that in these particular areas of the world where they live, that for them to have strong teeth and bones, because it has an effect on that, they would wear almost no clothes and have their skin exposed to the sun, because the sun didn't damage their skin, because the melanin was protecting the skin to some extent. Of course, you do have to hydrate your skin with, internally hydrated with foods that is full of oil, or you put oil on your body, like shea nut butter and coconut oil and things of that nature. So that hydrates the skin. And in many of the places in the world, people use different things to hydrate their skin. I imagine the Native Americans use sunflower oil, because they grow a lot of those, along with the pumpkins and corn. So I wouldn't be surprised. They use it in their food and also to hydrate their skins. So these things are, the sunlight that's our source of energy on this planet. And without that sun, we are in serious problems. Okay. Yeah, and the thing about, and a lot of stuff, sorry, go ahead. I was sorry. You was giving me
I was just saying, most indigenous people, you see that around the planet, they always revered the sun, and that's what our ancestors called it, the life giver. They wasn't saying that was God, but that life forth through the sun, through the creator, brought forth life, and all life would cease to exist if that sun wasn't there. So they revered it as such, its importance, that and that's why you get that across most indigenous cultures.
Okay, so let's look at a point. It's kind of taking me away from the basic topic, but if you look at the world prior to the entry on the world stage, if you want to talk about it, as you spoke, most of the people didn't cover up. They allowed their bodies to absorb the sun. So the people who lived in climates where there was little sun, the evolutionary biology and adaptation made it so that they can survive with little amounts of sun. So they removed all of the melanin as possible so that they can get sun, so that they can survive. And they came from very cold climates, so these people had to cover their bodies to stay warm. However, when they visited and they began to explore, they found people in the world who were wearing almost no clothes. Things around the waist, but the top upper portion, you might have some beads or you might have something there, but the upper portion of your body, you didn't wear anything. And it depends on where you were on the planet. It depends on how much clothes you wear. And because if you live in a place where there's a lot of sun, the evolutionary adaptation to biology is going to say, listen, I need to block as much of the sun because it can be harmful. So that means you have to spend more time in the sun.
I see.
Okay, so it's a sort of an inverse relationship. The more melanin you have, the more sunlight you need. The less
Oh,
melanin you have, the less sun you need.
okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so you see people going to the beach and they like, well, before I go on, I'm going to put on some sunblock. Okay, you know, this is to prevent burning of the skin.
Mhm. Right.
So that's that UVB radiation. It burns the skin. Also, it causes skin cancer. People who have been living in that environment with a lot of sun and they evolved in those environments, they don't have sunburn and they don't get skin cancer traditionally.
Hmm.
Of course, now we know the whole planet has adopted this habit that was brought in from Europe to dress people up, and so they made that a moral standard that if you could cover your body, you were more civilized, and the less covering you had on your body was the less civilized. Okay, and
Okay.
that's an inverse relationship
Hmm.
because these people were living in a climate that they depended on the seasons, and their seasons were relatively stable and mild, and so they just moved with the seasons. They didn't spend a whole lot of time trying to, acquire their food in 3 months. That little 3 month window in the north, you got somebody who's living around the equator. Their 3 months stretch out to 12. It's just season. Oh, this is the mango season. This is the avocado season. This is the corn season. This is the wheat season. This is the blah blah blah. Like
Hmm.
that. But people in northern climates, they weren't blessed with that, so they had to maximize their efficiency to produce everything they could in that small window of time. And when they couldn't produce it, then they had to eat animals and make products out of animals so that they could sustain themselves. So in these other places, people didn't eat a lot of animals. They had animals, but they didn't eat a lot of animals because, of course, they didn't have anywhere to store the animal. You're gonna cut an animal up every day, and it's wasteful. So they mainly those places where there was no, the climate wasn't cold. There's no way to store. Back in the day, I ain't talking about now. Back in the day, they would always have a feast whenever they, would slaughter an animal. So they invite the whole village or some festive occasion or something that was going on. Otherwise, in the north, they had that was their mainstay. They was eating meat every day or cheese and milk, things of that nature, cream, butter, because that's what they got from those animals basically, and they stored the grains and everything else, and they sustained them through the year. But they had to become very ruthless in their in a very efficient way so that they can survive. But that idea was transported around the world that that's the only way we should approach, uh, how we deal with resources. So that becomes the basis of capitalism. But we ain't gonna talk about that. That's a whole nother story. But you see where I'm going, right?
I
So
see exactly where you're going.
these ideas are so linked that it's difficult to talk about one without the other because these things are so linked together. And if you don't understand that they're linked together, you miss the point. And often when people talk about these things, they talk about them as isolated standalones and don't ever really understand where they came from and why they came into being and what do they support. So you end up with this idea of, okay, I understand capitalism. You talk to people today about capitalism, people are like, yeah, I'm a capitalist. I'm down with making money and maximizing my profits and reducing my expenditures. And well, where did that idea come from? You know, and it fed greed. So people were making a lot of money through this system. The other systems the other places in the world, they weren't talking about maximizing profit for them. They were maximizing the resources for the group or for the country or for everybody. So there's a different way of understanding. And it probably some of those other places in the coal, they did the same thing. But once you get a little power, it get corrupt. So money is power. You know. Wealth is power. You know, that goes to your head. So you get power over other people, over resources, and you know you don't want to give it up. So you create a. My family is the royal family. I'm the king. My king. All my kids gonna get this. So I'm gonna get all of it. I'm gonna give everybody's gonna bring me this. They work on my land. They gotta bring me some money. Well, they gotta bring me some resources. I'm gonna charge them rent. So now they get all the resources and they pass them. All a monarchy is just a generational wealth generating machine.
Okay.
That's all it is. But they don't do nothing to make the money. They already got the money through whatever means they got it, and they don't want to let it go.
Just pass it. Just pass it on. Pass it down. Huh?
They pass it to an elite few because they always got to have, you know, somebody there to be on their side. You know, so they get the military, they get the educational religious institutions. We're gonna give you some resources, and you can we'll stand with you. But anyway, that's another discussion. So today I'm going to talk about how light affects the cells. Your cellular membrane is composed of oils and fats. Those oils and fats are what you eat in your diet. There are two major categories of oils and fats. That's what they call saturated and unsaturated fat. Let me just break this down real simple because, you know, they start talking about PFAS and FAs and FFAs, and you know they have all these nomenclature and these terms they use. They talk about fats and get everybody confused. But basically, fat is what the body uses in many different ways. Fats and oils are used in your hormones. They call steroid hormones. Steroid hormones are sex hormones. So you got with female, you got progesterone, you got estrogen. With males, you got testosterone, and then you have all these other supporting hormones that you know support women in their reproductive system and men. But the major are you know estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. There are others, and so this is made from the fats that you eat. And the thing about the fats that you eat are critical to the health of your cell and to the quality of the sex hormones and the other hormones in your body. You got hormones, you know, you've heard of melatonin. Okay. The melatonin is secreted by the pineal gland. And that's affected by light. The more light, the less secretion of melatonin. The less light, the more secretion of melatonin. So melatonin it's when it helps you sleep and it helps you become more internal. And it helps you deepen, you know, your meditative states, your spiritual states. That's why they associate the third eye with, you know, a spiritual thing, right? Everybody's like, oh, my third eye is open. And you've heard this in the
yeah, for sure, all the time. Yeah.
And there's some truth to it. Because the third eye, the so-called third eye, is the pineal gland, and it's located, you know, between the level of the eyebrows and to the about near the back by the ears in your head, right? And so this gland is very active and attuned to the light intensity. When it's low light, the pineal gland secretes a lot of melatonin. And when there's a lot of light, it stops. So this is the basis of like how the year is set up into all of these different religious ceremonies. As it gets darker, the world gets more internal and more religious, if you notice, and more spiritual, right? So all the spiritual holidays start after September. Around September, they start going down to, you know, all these holidays start to pop up, you know. All these traditions in the Jewish tradition, the Hindu tradition, the Muslims, the Christian, all these traditions, they understand that the effects on the body is that you become more internal and more spiritual, and so they set up all their holidays based on that. So once after the solstice, the winter solstice, the light returns, and so now the events and the holidays and change, and because now there's a return of light, and your melanin is now starting to secrete less, and you become less internal. So that's another aspect of light that affects our body. Just like we talked a little bit about vitamin D3, these are very important things. And the thing with melatonin is that melatonin that they give in a bottle is way too high.
Hmm.
It should be like 2 micromilligrams. They got out there people with 10 to 25 milligrams of melatonin. Like they experimenting. This is a grand experiment. Nobody know what that stuff will do.
Is it? I mean, how do they make it? Is it synthetic?
Well, they synthesize it. Okay. You know, it's chemistry again.
Okay.
They go in and look at the structure of it, and then they
make it up.
Well, it's once you understand that chemistry has these atoms, and these atoms are very specific. Like you have iron atom, copper atom, you know. So you have these very specific atoms, you know, salt and calcium, and you know, so forth and so on. And you can arrange them in a certain way that you can mimic different things. Because when you take this substance of melatonin and break it out and look at it, and you say, oh, it's composed of this, that, and the other. And so you can recreate that. That's what they're doing with drugs. They're recreating what they find in the body. Most of the drugs that they use are not new drugs in terms of you made those drugs already in your body. But they're finding, you know, novel ways to kind of extract and reproduce it in the lab what's already inside your body. All the drugs that you use are inside your body already. Hypertension medication, all that medication is designed to interface on different molecular structures inside the body to produce a certain impact so that your heart doesn't go too fast, for high blood pressure, or some that try to open up the blood vessels, like Viagra. What it does, it stimulates the nitric oxide to become more active inside the body, because they give you some nitric oxide, which is what is naturally occurring in your body. This is why your blood vessels open. This is why they use it for sex, because the idea of the nitric oxide, the drug Viagra, when it was discovered, was they were using it for heart disease. The side effect, people were getting erections with it. Mm-hmm. And so they switched over to use from cardiac medicine to sexual medicine. Mm-hmm. But they found that the nitric oxide in it would open the blood vessels up. But that's already in your body. So everything that they do inside your body, it already exists. All they're doing is tinkering with the molecules that already exist in your body. So they're increasing those molecules or decreasing the molecules or turning things off and turning things on with meds. But they already exist in your body, they're not foreign. The problem is when you start tinkering like on a la carte. You know what a la carte means? Mm-hmm. What do it mean?
Taking little pieces, dipping and dabbing all over the place, and putting it.
Yeah, so
I'm taking things out of sequence and out of order, you know.
So if you a la carte the body, mm-hmm. This is a whole being, right? Mm-hmm. But I can go and a la carte these little things, right? Mm-hmm. So now I got this working over there, I got this one working over. They don't know how they work together, right? But they'll test it in isolation and say, well, the person's not going to die. The person's not going to die in isolation. But you know, folks show up in my office with like 13 different meds. I'm like, I scratch my head. I don't know how all that stuff is going, how it's going to affect you. I have no idea. You haven't done any clinical trials of, you know, these different meds together. So who knows how they're going to affect you? So, but that's a whole nother side of science that they don't want to talk about that's there. But so anyway, back to the a la carte and the tinkering with molecules. So this is what they've been able to do with the oils that we eat. most of the oils that we use in our bodies, remember I said that the membrane on the cell is oil based. They call it glyco lipid phospholipids, meaning that it has a lipid compound in there, and that lipid compound keeps the cell from the fluid around cells. They call it extracellular matrix. That's the water that's around the cells. So that water don't invade the cell. Just at any point, the oil keeps it intact.
Separate. Okay.
Yeah, keep it intact. But now the oils in the membrane, right, between the extra cellular matrix and the inside of the cell, that barrier, that cell membrane barrier, is composed of fat. If you didn't have that, you would walk into the pool or an ocean and you will come out with the rest of the water in the ocean in your body if you can struggle to get out, because all that water will seep inside you.
Oh, okay.
So that prevents you from, all that water that you would get in, because they got the gradient, the pressure outside got to be the same as the pressure inside.
Okay.
So you stand in the water, you got pressure pushing on you. And
Right.
if you didn't have that, if you did not have that protective barrier, all that water just come flooding inside your body.
Wow.
I mean, I'm just giving you an image of what it would look
I know.
like.
I'm just saying. I'm just thinking how great. Somebody had to think about putting this body together. Folks who sit up here think about that we just came to be. No, some thinking, some thought process went through this.
Yes. Now, so going back to that cellular membrane. Now, the oils that you use, they have made those oils through a process. They call it hydrogenation and other processes, but they have to use heavy metals and toxic metals. They'll use copper. They'll use iron. They will use nickel. They'll use palladium. They'll use platinum. Boron. They'll use all of these very toxic metals in the process as catalysts, right? In the hydrogenation process, right? To make the oil so that the oil can be stable on the shelf.
I see. Okay.
So when you buy an oil, you go in the supermarket, when you look at all of those bottles and cans or whatever of corn oil, Crisco oil, or whatever, I don't know, whatever's out there, but I haven't bought that stuff in 40 years. I don't even know what's on there. But all those oils have been the oxygenated process made them stable so they won't go bad. Now, let me just talk a little science here. Now, in oils, you have, when this oil is active, it has these electrons. You've heard it on the atoms, right? These little electrons, right? They're going around in a circle. You can kind of remember in your science, these little atoms, they're going fast around. They can't even pinpoint, but they know there's an atom out there on the outer ring, and those atoms form together. But every electron in the atom has what they call photons. Photon just simply means light.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that light is in anything that's alive. So every cell inside your body has electrons in it, because every cell has molecules and then atoms. And so every atom has light in those electrons. So you could say, in a way of speaking, you are a light body, if you want to talk about it like that. But what happens, what they do with the oils, they want to prevent the oils becoming rancid, so they modify the electrons and take the light out. When they do that, they make now the oil stable. Now that oil is not going to go rancid. But the thing is, that oil now has lost all of its electrical activity. It becomes almost inert. So you can use it, but it ain't going to do anything, right? So now you got that cell membrane. Now let's go back to that cell membrane. It's got made of oil. So when you ingest that oil now is going into the membrane, the surface of your cell.
Okay.
your cell is an electrical charge. Every cell has an electrical charge. Inside is negative, outside is positive. And that's done to prevent the charge when something hits the cell, it repels. Because the charge, some things are negative, some things are positive. So they have these little receptors on the cell, which is opens the, when something hits the cell, say for example, glucose hit the cell, the little receptor that accepts it, and then it flips and it opens like a little pathway inside the cell. So the glucose goes in. And then once it goes through, it flips back to the other charge. So it becomes negative and positive. This is how simple the cells work. And they all talk about all these, gap junctions and these transporter membranes and protein. I mean, all you have to know that the whole body is an electrical body, and that electron has a little light in it. And that's what you're eating when you eat vegetables, or animals, or whatever you eat, whatever you consume, those electrons with that light in it is going inside your body, and that keeps the electrical charge going. So in your cells, when you eat those oils on those shelves that is just in those clear bottles and it's mass produced, those things now go inside your body, and the cell use that for its structure. Now just imagine we start talking about, well, aging is a natural process. Well, if you eat foods that have less light in it and less activity, so when the food comes to the cell's so sluggish, you'd be like, yo, what you doing? So I'm trying to come in. And the cell says, well, you know what? I don't feel like you're coming in today because I'm a little tired. So now the food, it takes longer to get in. And then once it gets in, it also is very difficult to get out. So once the cell uses that substance, it now starts to accumulate inside the cell. And that accumulation inside the cell, of course, that's what we call mutations in the cell. And the cellular mutations set up the stage for the next, because the cell wants to live. The imperative in the cell is like, I want to exist. And so it finds ways to exist with all of these toxins inside, and so it becomes cancerous.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Okay. So this is how cancer works. If your body's immune system is strong, it can help override that. But your immune system is not going to be strong because let's just say your body has oil in the cell. Let me just flip back. I just want to get one thing here. The stable oils it also takes out the possibility of that cell becoming rancid. Okay? You know what I mean when I say rancid?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like when you eat an apple and you leave it out, it turns brown,
yes.
Right?
Okay.
If you took corn oil and you put it through a juicer, you get water and oil and it separates. If you let that oil, if you separate it and put that oil and just let it set for a while, then it'll go bad. The oxidation will start up and it'll turn rancid. So the oil, the food manufacturers say, hey, we'll lose money. So we got to figure out some way to keep that corn oil from going bad. So that going bad is the life force in that food. So in other words, what they're doing is they're taking the life force out of that food.
Gotcha.
And that's and so you're consuming this food with no life force in it because the life force is taken out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So that's the big problem. Okay. That's one of the big problems that why people have so many, the explosion of immune system disease, the problem with immune system disease. When I say that, we're not talking about like things like COVID, weakened immune system, or HIV, or rheumatoid arthritis, or lupus. There's a small subset of the population that gets that, but the majority of the population now will either have or die from cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, if you live in a community and grow up in a community, like I talk to a lot of my patients, they say, oh, I grew up in a household where we had an oil pot on our stove. You know about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
In a little can, in the Crisco can, on the whole
And
reusing
you
that
everything
oil.
you fry, you pour it back in there, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Now some people strain it out, and some people don't strain it out. And the bottom may be all that sediment, right? You got to be careful how you dip it out. So you're gonna fry your eggs in it in the morning, right? You're
Yep.
gonna you're gonna fry your chicken in it. You're gonna okay. Now once you start frying that stuff, and once that stuff fried and it's put in that mix, then your next door, your body is going to use it, but you're in bad shape. Now, the reason why that came into being is because on the agrarian diet that much of the world was eating, they were using the fat, or what they call tallow, the fat of animals. Now, the fat of animals is very stable. Okay, very stable.
Mm.
That's why they use lard. So you get that lard, and lard ain't gonna go bad on you. Have you ever heard lard going bad? No, it's not gonna go bad because it's very stable in its nature. At room temperature, lard is stable. Okay, they whip it up and do a little process, but in the animal, it's fat. You can see it in the animal. It's stable. It ain't going nowhere. Same as fat that's in your body. So what happens? People were using that to fry chicken, cook, to cook with, right? So that was part of their cuisine. Now the beauty of that was that these people were eating this saturated fat, but they were burning it off because they were working very hard labor.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't care what where you come from. If you come from Europe, you still worked hard on the farm. You had to feed that horses, the cows. You got to milk the cows. You got to make butter. You got to all that hard work on the farm. That's what most Europeans came out of. The Africans came in a different situation, but they worked hard on their fields and their farms. Okay, they didn't eat a lot of meat, but when they got here, they changed. So their diet became something that would sustain them. And so they picked around to figure out what was better of the food that was offered. And so they chose these foods because they went through cold spells, hot spells, and they found that these foods were giving us the substance to work. But now that same agrarian diet that the world is eating is a problem that we all are suffering from right now with all the diseases that we have. Because the last time I looked, I don't think you have worked hard like somebody who works on a farm, except maybe if you go you go hiking or something, or play a game of basketball or some sports, right? And you ain't playing like the NBA players. You ain't playing like 8 hours a day every day, right? I mean, they can eat that farm diet and nothing happened to them. In fact, that farm diet on an NBA player gives them an edge over everybody else because they're getting a diet that's packed and loaded with proteins and carbs and fats, and they burn it every day. You eat that same diet, you're gonna blow up, and your cells gonna die because you're not doing anything with that diet. And the most we do is we walk up and down stairs, maybe push buttons, you know.
I see your point. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so people say, well, you should get more exercise. I said, no, don't get more exercise because that's going to be you can exercise, but the way our lives are, it's hard to get the exercise requirement that you need, but you can change your diet. So you can change your diet to match your activity. But if you don't change your diet to match your activity, to match it, then you should expect those things to show up.
Well, you're out of balance at that point. It is not.
Yes,
Not
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we see today? The diseases that we see,
Mm-hmm.
they're all about too much people putting on too much weight, and they think that they're eating a normal diet. The diet they're eating is giving them the problem because they never sat down, or the powers that be never really sat down to tell people what to eat. They just try to reinforce this farm diet and not really have caught up. I mean, if you're living in a digital world today, right? For me and you to have this conversation, I'd have to go to Cleveland, or you have to come this direction. We got to spend energy and time, set up schedules, the whole bit, right, to have this conversation. Today is digital. I'm sitting at my house. You at your house. We having this conversation. We 800-900 miles away from each other. We're like we're sitting in the same room. The hardest thing I did to do to have this meeting was to press a few buttons,
Right.
and
Hey,
you appear like magic in front of me. Okay.
okay, Doom. So before we go to uh, making this connection with light and energy and health, I want to kind of like recap, some things because taught
Sure.
me
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
a little science, man, and
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
and I learned something from this here. Okay, so you're saying we got our cell. The inside the cell is usually electrical charge. Outside is usually a positive charge. But
Yes.
but on the surface of that cell, we got this layer of. Would I be correct to say fat?
The fat is on the
In
cell
between
layer. Yes, it's fats.
it. Right,
It's fat,
around.
but it
All
got a
right.
skin. It's just like the skin on your body.
Uh huh.
Below the skin itself, there's what they call it epidermis.
Yes.
Those cells have fat in it,
Okay.
more fat than other parts of your body, and right? Because
Yeah.
underneath the epidermis, right, is muscle.
Okay.
Okay, that's the
Mm-hmm.
way the structure is, right? And then inside the muscle is a bone.
Mm-hmm.
Different kind of muscle, tendons, and so forth and so on. But skin, muscle, skin, fat. Skin is fat, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you have muscle, and then you have bone. Now, just think about your cell, the same concept.
Mm-hmm.
So the cell, the outside of your body, has a certain kind of charge. That's why with the people who practice qigong, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
acupuncture work. The acupuncture points in the channels is
Yes.
because there's a charge. There's a charge here. There's a positive charge flowing outside your body. So
Okay.
the cell has the same makeup. So it's
Mm-hmm.
out that cell wall, that cell, right? That round cell has a phospholipid compound that prevents things from going out and things from coming in.
Okay. Okay.
And the
So.
charges, the charge. When you touch something that's a negative and then it flips to become a positive, like it's almost like a battery. When you stick a battery into a device, the device there's no charge there, right? Okay. You try to
Mm-hmm.
turn your whatever, your radio on or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no battery in there. It won't do anything. But as soon as you put that battery on this part, which is positive and this is
Close that
negative,
circuit. Close that
it
circuit.
makes the circuit. And
Mm-hmm.
so that circuit exists, right? If you put another battery, another wire in between that and the off and on, that now will counteract that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they will change in the orientation of the charge.
The polarity of
So no, huh?
the polarity or something maybe.
Yeah, the polarity. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going on in the earth right now, because the polarity of the earth on the ends of the earth is the electrical charges. They're the battery. The top and the bottom is the battery. Just like the battery you have, and there's a charge going out and they connect. So they talk about true north have now moved like 8 to 9
Yeah.
degrees. Okay, you've heard about that,
I
right?
read that. I read something about that. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But there's going to also be, they say that the poles have flipped many times.
I'm just saying
Okay.
that. Tell somebody that. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how they know that is they can take the earth or something in the earth, right, and measure the charge in there
Mm-hmm.
and see where the charge is and what it was before and what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's some who's saying the charge it could be quite catastrophic, because charge could, if you flip the charge, it might cause some drift or changes in the earth crust.
Okay.
Because you remember, this earth is we riding on a big ball of liquid. Don't be under the illusion that this thing earth is not. This mantle is riding on this liquid.
Wow, that's
Okay?
weird. I just read an article about that.
Okay.
Funny, right?
Right. So that charge, if it flips, that could change the orientation.
Mm-hmm.
So it may not. They talk about different things like floods and fires, and we don't know because we don't know that much about what happened in history. We only know a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
some people say there were civilizations and civilizations and civilizations and civilizations that got wiped out that we'll never know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
And we just see
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little this, a little that, but we can't piece it together because there's nothing else that we can see.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but
So I,
God, okay. What back to the so we got that little fatty piece that is that barrier. Okay.
yes,
So when you talked about then we eating these orals that has been stabilized. I'm imagining what you're saying here. So are you saying then those orals are now replacing that that natural oil or fatty part of the cell is being dampened by uh, this modified oil that we are consuming now or something, and therefore that electrical photon charge that is in that atom is doing something not good in reference to by eating this oils is killing and is damaged and then dampening that cell.
okay, that'd be like me. That stabilized oil would be like uh, me or you trying to do 100 yards against somebody who's 17 or 18.
Okay, all right. Okay, okay, okay. All right.
They be down the field by the time we get there. We'd be like out of breath. We can get there. Okay.
All right.
And that's what happens to the cells because the energy that can
Right.
transfer through in and out is so sluggish that we call that aging. Knock on wood. That's natural. That ain't
Come on.
natural.
See, I was just, it's funny to see this conversation is strange to me because some of these things you said, I had some topics about it because I was talking to my brother about it. And a lot of times when these doctors can't explain some things, they say, oh, that's natural. That's just part of the natural aging process. Really? Is that your best answer that you can give me? You know?
Yeah, this is
Wow.
what they this is what they say. And so it goes like that. Listen, I study Chinese medicine. I study some. I'm not well versed in Ayurvedic medicine. I know that I can get my way around in the broad outlines because I can make correspondence between Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, and I could, homeopathy, and I'm looking at Western medicine, and all of these different approaches to healing, or healing. I'll say that are all based on a different perspective. Right? That perspective is what we call an ideology or
Okay.
philosophy.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Okay. So the Westerners, the biomedicine, that's the Western medicine, they believe that based on the way they look at the world, that they have the upper hand on information. They could go down and look so deeply inside the cell that they could tell you all these things down in the cell. But they can't tell you how to live your life and how to integrate with the cosmos.
Hmm.
Okay. The others have seen the futility of going so deep into the small reductive thing to fashion your life around that they decided they will fit into the larger microcosm and go from there down. They all work, but which one is more sustainable and that fits into the environment that they find themselves in is the question. So the biomedicine is they put blinders. They put they put you in a box. You can't. That don't cross over there. That don't cross over there. That we got you. You can way we see the science is only gonna be in this box, and it works, but it's just like developing a engine that is gonna have such a negative impact on the environment that you may even at some point lose your home because the toxins and the chemicals that are coming off that engine is not integrated into the society or to the natural environment. So I call that a closed system way of thinking And these other systems, these natural systems, they're more open. So they're open to the inputs and the energy of the society, of the environment. So that's why they can do things that the biomedicine, which is very closed, can't do. And so I'm not saying I'm not gonna set up a hierarchy of what's more important and so forth and so on. Because if I get injured in a car accident, don't come and do no Reiki on me.
Right.
Put me in an ambulance, take me to the hospital, save my life. Now, after I'm saved, yeah, then I go and we can go do some Reiki and do some acupuncture and stuff like that. But this, so that's what I'm saying.
But Doc, what most people can relate to what you just said is that why we get about 2 minutes of side effects when they talk about a drug, those imbalances? That's what it sounds like to me, what you were saying.
Well, yes, you are absolutely right. The side effect is actually the main effect as part of the main effect of the drug.
Mm-hmm.
So they try to
the main effect. Okay.
Yeah, they try to throw you off with language. See, you got to understand that the language that they use, they try to, all of a sudden, this thing has a side. If you came at me, right, and you hit me with a right and then you hit me with a left, and I said, well, the right was the real one, but the left was a side effect. Right? So you start walking around talking about, well, the guy, that right hand is good, but you got to watch out for that side effect.
Right there.
That side effect.
Hold on, Doc. So let me set up this next phase. So with that being said, then, because to me, it's almost like what Dr. Amos said, that being a psychologist, to understand psychology, psychiatry and its effects and how it deals with them, you have to understand history, and you have to,
you have to
apply those history, and you got to apply those things to us, how it relates to, a lot of times by you dealing with somebody else and their methodology and how they look at things and their ideology, a lot of times it's not conducive to you. So you usually got to, like when people went to medical school, they go to school, and then they say, okay, how can I use this to deal with my community and my people? I got to massage it a little bit to where my people can understand it and make it work. So I'm saying all that to say, then with us understanding this whole life giver, what we started this conversation of with the sun, and the sun brings life to everything. So that sun has an important role to this whole mechanism, this thing we call life in our body. So that's where that's where we coming to then.
Now I just want one little piece on the oils. The reason why they put oils in dark bottles and clear bottles is because the stable oils that have been tampered with and made stable, they won't degrade. But everything in a dark bottle is something that has the potential to degrade. So they got to protect it from the light, because the light will damage the electrons and because those little photons in that electron, right, there's a life in there. So they're trying to protect that. Now, I really tell people, if you're going to buy products, make sure you get things like, coconut oil, olive oil, what other oils? You get palm oil, palm kernel oil, those kind of things. And those oils are, and all of them, even avocado oil, I've seen it out. These are dark bottles. But try and buy a small amount. Because if you buy a large amount, and this is where the conundrum, because poor people want more bang for their buck, so they're gonna go buy the biggest. But the biggest, even in a dark bottle, is if you don't turn that top on there securely after you use it, it will now air get in there and it'll start to oxidize and become rancid, and then you defeated the whole purpose of buying these oils. So I tell people, just buy smaller bottles, more expensive, but down the road, your body will love you because the oils will be safe. So that was one thing. So yeah, what was the question?
So the old life giver, the sun. So So basically, then it will stand a chance just by reasoning, because we've been taken so far out of our natural understanding of how everything works in relationship to each other. So the sun, as our indigenous looked at the sun being the life giver, so the sun and sun's rays and sun's energy has plays an important role to this whole healing process, especially when we talk about melanated people.
Yes, I mean that's been the story of my life has been trying to solve the mystery of why we are in the situation we're in. And so, I was like trying to figure out, why something. First, you start off with this idea. Obviously, there's something wrong with us because our lips are too big, our nose is too big, our skin is too dark, our hair is too nappy, and our butt's too big, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. Now we start off. God made us wrong, right? So that's the first thing that happens in your mind because colorism plays that in your mind. Says if you're not of this shape or that, then your color and everything about you is wrong. So now you start out with this concept that, well, I'm inferior, and you're not inferior because God don't make inferior, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in your mind, you think, oh, well, I'm inferior. Now, it may not be that straight up because, the subtlety of colorism is deep. So it can be very complex and you may not even understand it. So often people do things that they don't even understand the motivation of why they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't even talk to them about the motivation because then they get kind of like crazy, like, well, this is the way we always do it, and this is the way we do it, and this is the way it is, and da da da. And if you start questioning deep, like a lot of the black psychologists, the pro-black psychologists like Amos Wilson and so forth, they begin to look deep. Francis Cresswell, they begin to look deeper at the effects of colorism on peoples of color. And it's just
Right.
not in America. This is all around the world. This is my best friend he's an Indian, but he lives in Hong Kong. We were living in Africa together many years ago. He's written a number of books. His latest book is Dismantling Global White Supremacy. Okay, because
Mm-hmm.
he sees how that system has destroyed the world. So he's looking at that and he's saying, well, I'm from India. You know what they did in India, right?
Yeah.
If you
Class
don't know,
society there. Mm-hmm.
no, man, there's more. The biggest diaspora in the world is Indians. Did you know that?
The big. Okay. Yes. With the 1.38
No, the biggest
billion.
diaspora. I ain't talking about the people in
Oh,
India.
the biggest diaspora. No. Okay. No, I didn't know that.
You
No.
didn't know that.
No, I
So,
didn't know that. No.
okay, you don't know that. And how many people over here don't know that? Because the British took them everywhere and made them work everywhere.
The Indians. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
man.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay. You go down to the islands. You go to the Caribbean. You go to South America. You go to Asia. You go to Africa. The British took those Indians everywhere and made them work.
Hmm.
They got slick because they knew they was outlawing slavery, so they created this thing called indentured servants,
Mm-hmm.
meaning I'm going to promise you something, sign your name on the dotted line, and I'm going to send you overseas. You're going to be over there for 5 years. And when you get there, they take people that sent you over go missing. You don't know who, what. You can't get back home. You get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
That's slavery by another name.
Yeah, for sure.
And they working these people in the cane fields, and they just come over to work the fields. They ain't doing no other work. They did the same thing. The British did the same thing, and the Europeans, mainly the British. And then what they did to the Indians, they made them act with the same psychology that I was talking to you about. They did that with the Indians. So, and the Indians had this, they had this internal caste system.
Right.
In caste systems, you got to, that's a system of you're born into it, right? You can't get out, right? A caste system, you can't get out. Like black people over here, we in a caste system, but nobody tell us that. So, except for the sister came and wrote the book on caste, class, and race. Did you read that book?
No.
No.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you the title. But yeah, she did a beautiful expose about that we are in a caste system. A caste system you're born in and you can't get out. So you're born as a black person, there's a system here and you can't get out of that system. And your children gonna be born in it, and everybody gonna be, that's a caste system.
Mm-hmm.
Don't talk about racism. There's no such thing as race. There's only the human race. But they have different kind of systems that they lock your butt up in. And one of them is a caste system, and they use colorism to enforce it. And they keep reinforcing it through the media. In everything you look in the media, they keep reinforcing it. And then at some point, they don't have to really do too much reinforcing because now it's self-perpetuating, right? Well, we know that. We talk about that all the time, right?
That's right.
Right. So it's self-perpetuating. But the thing is that, so this idea of how, what's going on in the world in terms of the sun. I mean, they went and got everybody who was in the sun belt and put them to work in the sun belt. The British didn't work in the sun belt, right? They went and got everybody who come from the sun belt and put them to work in the sun belt. And why? Because that's where all the resources in the world are, in the sun belt. So they went there and got everybody in. I went to Malaysia. My best friend, this guy I was telling you about, he grew up in Malaysia. When I went to Malaysia, I went to, he invited us to visit Malaysia. This is back in the 80s. I get there, I see all these black, dark colored Indians, and I see all these Chinese, and then I see these brown Malaysians. I'm like, what the hell? What is this all about over here? Right? And you can see most of the Indians were indentured slaves.
Wow.
And they were, when I saw them, they were working in rubber, the rubber plantations. Don't forget, these people are they're almost like sharecroppers. They dirt poor. And they're working in these plantations all over Indonesia, because Malaysia, Thailand, all of those countries, the British got all of that, got them. Okay? And people don't know that. And so it's the same thing that went down in the Caribbean. The same thing went down in the islands in Asia. Same thing, and in Africa. So this is a phenomenon worldwide. So the thing is that skin color, as I started off to say, skin color is just an evolutionary adaptation to maximize your survival wherever you happen to end up on the planet. It had no other purpose. So people get caught up in, I'm blacker than this. My black is better than your black, and come on. All that colorism, that's up here. Now, because they're a colorist system, some people are using that against each other for gain. Now you have to call that out. Okay, you have to call that out.
Okay.
Because that's just as destructive as the system itself, and the people who are benefiting from it. So you have to call them out. You got to call these people out. So anyway, like I said, you talk about melanated people. I've had to stand in the right in the midst to try to figure out how can we understand ourselves so we can get out of this. And yeah, it became important for me. I devoted my life to try to understand this, what is going on. Why I got to see it. I got to understand what's going on, because I'm wrong. I mean, I've been made wrong according to that system. My voice is wrong. My hair is wrong. My features are wrong. And I'm like, who made me wrong? The universe didn't make it. The universe doesn't make wrong. The universe makes perfection. So if you are standing and you're alive, that is perfection. Because all of your systems are working in conjunction with all the forces around you. You're perfection. Once that perfection stops, then you go. You die. So we're perfect. But you got to get that idea. People have to understand that. And to get through those layers, like I was talking about the positive psychology, let's say, for example, that somebody told you the reason why you were having problems in life is because you was mad at your father because he was having sex with your mom.
Oh, that'd be silly.
That's the basis of Western psychology. It's the basis of sexual repression. That's what's the whole driver of all of the pathologies that exist in your psyche.
Mhm.
Okay. Now,
So, but seem like we victim of a serious misinterpretation of everything that that is being bestowed on us. You know what I mean? It really, that's why I like Eastern philosophy, and it comes from a more natural indigenous state, of understanding it. And when you really look at it, it just makes sense. It's harmonizing and stuff like that.
you're right. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's no system that man has made is perfect, because
Right.
perfect. All kinds of things get in there. Greed. All kind of corruptions are in systems. So it's hard. You got to look at a system for a while, and you can see the corruption in the system. But once you start seeing the corruption, you could begin to make corrections in that system. And it's easier to make corrections in those systems because they're glaring, they can see them, and they're not hooked up to all this other stuff. I mean,
I see your point. I see your
the
point.
Chinese have their stuff, the Indians have their stuff. I mean, even Africans, they within the continent, they have their stuff. I mean, I lived in a kingdom. A beautiful book was written about it. It's called The African Aristocracy. That's in Eswatini, and it's one of the oldest monarchies in the world. Uh, they have their stuff too. I mean, you go there, you got to fit in. They got their rules and they got their order, and they got the type. There's a type of woman to them that is very beautiful. To you, you may not look beautiful, okay, or may not fit your concept of beauty. These are all cultural things, So you go there, they be like, "Nah, you ain't fitting in here. You gotta go." But they have their system, and it works for them, and that's it. But corruption gets in there, and you got to weed out the corruption. The hope for us as humans is that at some point, we were thinking that education would be the key, but what we find is that the education only reinforces the biases and the bigotry, and I mean it becomes more deeply hidden in the system, and it's hard to see it. And so, if you're not that astute, you can come to the conclusion that these things have now ended and no longer, a reality. I mean, just the science that I was talking about, this chemistry, the idea that chemistry is it's all about the polarities that exist inside every phenomena, right? From an atom to a molecule to tissues to the world. Look, we talked about the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is, and once you understand it from that perspective, then when you go look at the little, the minutia and the little pieces, then you can walk in and look at it and say, okay, I got it, I see, okay, I got it. They're calling all these funny names, but I can see that underlying reality there. And once you see that underlying reality, it becomes easy to understand if you want to go study. Like if you want to go study chemistry right now, you could probably open a chemistry book and start thinking, okay, let me look at the positive and negative correlations they're talking about in this science quote. Okay, you'll see that everywhere. You'll see that that polarity everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Universal.
the computers work on the polarity system.
Mm-hmm.
Your body works on the polarity system.
You can't get away from it.
Right.
You can't
But
get away from it.
yeah, so the question is, if that's what's underlying everything, why don't they teach it in a way that you can understand that all these things have polarities? Like they would remind you as you go through. Okay, don't forget there's a polarity here that I'm dealing with. Okay, now let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of students get discouraged because they go into the sciences, they don't understand the overall picture, and they get discouraged and say, "Man, that's what."
Well, you know how you know how some of the philosophers and some of our lecturers kind of frame it as 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 this Western thinking as being left-brained thinkers, and they departmentalize a lot of the way they doing it, or is it intentional? Are you saying this way of thinking intentional to where it keep you in the dark, or is that how they approach everything?
No, it's just a closed. It's a person who functions in a closed system.
Okay.
Okay, this person is functioning in a closed system, so they just see things from a very closed perspective.
Okay.
And you can't you're not seeing the that it's a closed system. You just see a system, but you don't see it's closed. Why? Okay, around the earth, the people are there's finances going around the earth, and every group of people there's finances. People got to buy food, they got to buy housing, they got to do all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why do they close off their financial systems to other people? Why?
I guess to keep it within that particular culture and realm of things, I imagine.
Home advantage, right?
That's right, right,
Okay,
exactly.
home advantage,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So now that person over there is going to have to go buy the same rice you buy. Now they price the stuff so that that person over there can afford it, which is probably way cheaper than what you're paying for it. So they don't create too much disruption in the social fabric of the country or the nation or wherever they happen to be.
I see the
Okay,
point. Mm-hmm.
so they make you pay more for it, and they make you feel like you're in an exalted position because your rights might be packaged a little differently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the closed system thinking, this is what happens. This closed systems thinking, and it don't integrate into nature, and it's not sustainable. So that's what all these young people now are saying. This world is not sustainable. We got to create a sustainable world. If we can get a sustainable world, maybe we can see past what they're talking about. Like there's only 60 more harvests in terms of the topsoil left on the planet.
Hold on, I ain't heard that one now.
Oh man,
Explain that.
yeah. There's only 60 more harvests left.
Only 60 more harvests.
Yes,
Do we equate that to years?
you can. It could go faster than that.
Okay.
Why you think they're spending so much money doing these vertical farms?
GMOs and stuff. See that's what I'm
Vertical
wondering.
vertical
Oh,
farms.
vertical. Okay.
Yeah. No. Forget about GMO. They got these vertical farms on these belts that they go way up high, 30, 40 stories and come back, right? And they have lights, different levels have different lights. This level has to be a red light, the blue light, white light, and all these lights. Because they get different. Red light is rapid growth, right? You know that, right? So that's why you put a red light on your plants in your house, boy, them things will jump up with muscles. Quick.
Okay. Okay. All right.
You walk in the house, they might knock you out. I'm strong.
Okay.
That's red light, right?
Okay.
Okay, that's that red, martial energy,
Okay.
fire, right?
Red light's always been fire, right? Red is fire, right? Okay.
It's going to stimulate growth.
That's right. Okay.
But to sustain it, you got to use other lights and different things like that. But they put these farms, these vertical farms, all over the world. They are in cities. They're vertical farms right now in cities, and you don't even know. Probably got a lot of them in Cleveland because a lot of the land space is so cheap. They keep it hidden. The tomatoes that you buy, they look so ripe and everything. The one with the little vine on the vine, right? It look like they look so nice, right?
Almost picture perfect or something.
They grow them somewhere around you in a vertical farm, and never touch any dirt.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I wonder why some people, how they acting and responding around the planet like they know something that we don't know.
Well, they do. They do know something you don't know. Because you on this other side, they making the rules for themselves. They setting up everything for themselves. And we a lot of us, like I got a garden. I like gardening. My garden is like, instead of running around chasing women, or chasing drugs, or chasing money, or
Mhm.
chasing cars, or I mean,
Right.
everybody got their vice, right? Well, my vice is organic gardening. So I try to compost, make my soil good, and be with the seasons, kind of have a little sustain. But that's just a little small thing. I'm doing that. It makes me feel happy. But, in the big picture, it has no impact. I mean, if I really wanted to do something with impact, I'll go buy me a couple, tall warehouses, empty warehouses, and I'll get a business plan and organize, hire people who can do it, and just do it,
Mhm.
right? And then control so make it as organically sustainable as possible. That's an investment there, and that's easy. And there are a lot of guys, not like us, but there's a lot of guys who thinking like this, and they're going making it happen. Of course, they keep us out of the system. They keep you away from the money. They keep you away from things. Most of those guys who are doing it don't have no expertise. They just have financial savvy, or they know where to get the financial savvy, and get the scientists, and to get the people who can create the
I was gonna
machine.
say they get the labor, they know how to about getting the
They
resources
know
that
how
they
to
need.
organize things. Yes, they know the
Mhm.
system. They know how to organize.
Right.
They ain't no smarter than you are.
Right.
Well, all right.
And so Doc,
What?
in bringing us back to this health piece and his son, so because I always found it interesting. You hear people talking about, like you said, this melanin that we have in melanated people, like us being up in this north and having limited sunlight.
Right.
How's that? That's not a good thing per se.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, we need more light. I mean, this is the problem. We need more light. We
Hmm.
need we need more light. Hold on 1 second. I want to step. Hold on a second. Just one
Okay.
second.
Hmm. Your camera following you.
Oh yeah, yeah. Follow me around. Follow me around. I'll be right there.
Yeah, family. This is interesting talking. I always like to um, bring it all together. We're dealing with our culture, our philosophy, our understanding, and the things that indigenous people tend to have in common when it comes to looking at the body and its relationship to nature and everything else around them. That's why we had these conversations, because we may be talking about health, but you got to deal with the whole mental piece in nature and wrap it all together, because there's nothing separate in reference to that. It's all together. And I think, but as far as our system here in Western culture, they tend to divide that and separate that, and just this is the spiritual, this is the mental, this is the physical, this is the ideology and philosophy on how things should be done and whatever, and we tend you know to approach it like that in that concept, and I think other people do not. They look at it as being one, and you have to deal with it all. And when they create these medicines and things like that, they tend to take active ingredients out of that and then synthesize the active ingredient and leave out the other inactive ingredients that gives it balance. And I think that's an interesting approach, and I think that's an approach which causing a lot of us a lot of problems. But once we I think start doing more to take the time out to really understand a little bit better on how this thing in this life and our body works, I think we can do ourselves more justice when we do that, because what you're going, because a lot of us don't even know, Brother Dumisani, our organs and where they're located in the body and what it needs to to be ran optimally and things like that. We It's like out of mind, out of sight, out of mind. You know what I mean? You don't pay no attention to it, and we relying on everybody else, but we can't see all this pathology all around us, growing, hospitals growing, putting on extra wings in the hospital, and modernize it, and they're expecting a lot of future pathology down the road, and we not paying attention to that. Doc.
Yeah, brother, you are so right. I just can, I, my thinking is that if you get into thinking sustainable, we can get out of this predicament. Um, the thing about this country is we talk in this, black and white dichotomous thing, which is somebody created this idea of black and white. So this colorism, right? This is what I'm talking about. So they get you to think in this dichotomous way. So like it's black or white. And so we grew up with this idea that we're black or we're white, right? And I mean that really doesn't. There's no reality to that. That's a false construct, and we buy into it. And that false construct is it's the big problem why we can't get to where we need to go. We bought into this false construct. We breathe life into it, and we make it, stand up in front of us, and generation after generation, and then, somebody comes to town to break it apart and say, well, look at this false construct you've been putting, living your life around.
What that calls
so scary. Huh?
Yeah, I said, but that calls for some elevation of our consciousness to get away from it, because they throw it in our face so much every day. And I think that might be, all fairness, that a lot of us focus on it so much is because it seems like everywhere you go, I was just telling somebody in all of these other cultures, you got some issues with the light Cubans and the dark Cubans, the light Puerto Ricans and the dark Puerto Ricans, the light Indians and the dark Indians. It's somebody has set that system up all over the planet, and it's it's in our face 360. 5. You know what I mean?
So yeah, I was just watching this movie on TV with what's his name in it? What's the comedian name? The brother?
Which one? The shorty? Hard?
No, he's an old comedian. He's been around like long. He's been around. Let me see. His name is Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy. Oh yeah, I just seen a trailer of it. Him and this white guy.
Yeah. You people.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, I'm not into the NIGGA. That ain't my thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are some people who say, if you use that term, you've taken the power out of that term and applying it to all kind of situations that it wasn't originally intended for. You understand?
Yes. Uh-huh.
That means that you now are going to control the narrative. So, I mean, I understand that. I mean, that's been part of my life, is to gain control over the narrative of who I am and what I am about. But I still take umbrage with that word, because it's still loaded up with a whole lot of, negative energy. And, people try to, turn, like in this movie, is like, I mean, I don't remember the last time, because I don't like look at a lot of hip hop movies, or a lot of the hip hop on YouTube. My son got a lot of hip hop talk shows and podcasts. And I click on one every once in a while, because I open it up and look at it. And I mean, and the language that they use is straight up in the hood, right? So it's all straight up hood language. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I mean, you want to go there and look at it, but that's not cultivated language going to take us anywhere, right? Because that's just going to reinforce all the negative stereotypes.
Okay.
So I'm not hating anybody. I'm just saying that, if you as a scholar, if you're going to look at something and understand it for what it's worth, and people don't understand the effects it's having on them, and they now have elevated this word, which is so loaded with negativity, they're going to use that word to apply to a whole lot of situation. And even in this movie, they talk about, they call, Caucasians the N word, right? Almost like a term of, just another phenomenon, like that person over there, instead of saying that person, that was that, and it's not necessarily a black person.
Right.
But so they're trying to take the power of the word and change it around, but it still has loaded with all these negative stereotypes. So how are you going to get that out of there? And in this movie, I'm just like when the music behind it's got all the hip hop, and every hip hop rap music in there is loaded up.
Is that how they selling it?
It's loaded up, and I'm like, I mean. I'm not, I don't get upset with it. I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is what they're doing. This is what he's trying to do. This is how they're trying to mitigate the impact of that word. That's their approach. I mean, I know when I got back to the United States and I was on the train, this is in the 80s, and these school kids, it was a bunch of white school kids, they was on the subway. And I didn't really pay them any attention. I was kind of reading something. My attention was elsewhere. And I kept hearing these, somebody over there was talking about, end this, end that. You might end that end and this end. And I was like, now who are they talking to? And I look up. Now, these kids, they calling themselves, these are white kids, they calling themselves the N-word. Okay? And I was like struck by that. And I was like, what? This is what's happening in America. Young kids, white kids are called, right?
Okay.
And I mean, it felt like it was kind of strange. I didn't know where to put that. I couldn't get into the psychology of it, but I was just hearing this, and I was like, this is very strange to hear. Maybe I've been out of the country too many years. I've been away from it. Maybe I don't know. But this is maybe something new. But in this movie, I kind of get the same thread that it was like all these people, who are not, black are using the word, and they're just throwing it around and like it's just another word. And I'm like, okay,
yeah.
All right. I mean, one of the white guys in the movie was using it on just like a black person, but everybody else didn't. I noticed nobody else said the word except him.
Okay.
I ain't gonna spoil. I'm not gonna spoil. I'm not gonna spoil alert. I'm not gonna tell you the plot.
Okay.
Yeah, go see it.
Yeah. So again, okay. So let's just draw put the dots together then, because we was talking about the cells and the suns and how we eat in our diet, how it dampers this because everything is about energy and everything is about light. And the sun is the light giver, and so many, we could call it the light is, as some people use the light in terms of information or whatever, but the sun is the light, and it affects the planet and it affects our bodies. So what can we do, and how can we do, because we up here in this north, we inside here, how can we use this sun to our best advantage?
Well, in the Asian system, they developed a couple different ways, like in India and also in China. Like the word hatha yoga, it means sun and moon. So in other words, what they're saying is we can balance the sun and moon inside your body by using these different postures. And then hatha yoga is only part of the whole system of Ayurvedic medicine. Is part of it, right? Which is based from Indian, came from India, right? So the yogis developed this. So in their system, they have certain foods that will increase the sun fire in you. They have certain postures that you can do that increase the sun inside you, or the moon, whatever direction you need. Certain breathing techniques. You've heard of fire breath before, right? You've heard of that before.
Yes.
You can heat your body up. You can even, there were stories or evidence that show people sitting in the snow and melt snow just doing this.
Yeah, my brother was talking about that. Yes.
Okay. So this is science. This is documented. So this is not something I'm coming off the top of my head with. So in other words, what they're saying is that you can use your body to do anything you want with it. And here's the science. Here's a science of how to heal your body. Here's a science how to make your body strong, or to overcome this, that, and the other. Now in India, they do that. That's a whole system. What they're doing now is people running to yoga and just getting a little posture and look pretty. I'm looking pretty. Maybe I'll get a little less stress, but I got the yoga body. There's all these women are doing it, right? But it's a whole system. They got a food system that's based on these elements, 5 elements. They got air, water, water, earth, fire, ether, and wood, right? Chinese have a similar system. They have a system called Qigong where they just use breathing to increase your either increase your fire or your water, or you can use it for different organs. Martial arts, some of the martial arts, the same breathing techniques are designed to change your mental states, because different rates of breathing also induce certain brain waves in your brain. So you have the beta, the alpha, gamma, delta, and theta, or theta and delta. And delta is the slowest brain wave. So you can get yourself down into that state with just your breathing rate, right? And that is the regeneration, and that's deep sleep, right? And then theta is like kind of daydreaming sleep, and it's rapid eye movement. And then you got the alpha state, which is just the state between beta and theta, and that's sort of like a meditation state. And then the beta state is just a normal waking state, but you can induce breathing patterns and rhythms to induce those patterns in your brain and change the way your consciousness, so that you're not left out there just by like whatever my consciousness have to be, I got to accept it. No, you have lungs in your body that you can breathe in and out at these different rates and change your consciousness. You can make yourself more fiery. You can make yourself sleepy. But people don't understand that these things are there inside you. You don't have to do anything, just use what you have. The same thing with postures. In the Chinese martial arts, they use postures. And then the other one is Qigong, where you use posture. You can bring fire inside your body. You can stand on the earth with no shoes on it and ground yourself and pull the energy of the earth up through your feet into your body. Or you can pull the energy of heaven through your head, through the points and energy in your head. They got all these things, the foods. Chinese got all these different foods. This food is yang, that food is yin. This food was, the taste of this food will go to the liver. This taste of this food will go to the spleen. Taste of this food will go to the kidney. I mean, they got this system worked they got it worked out. And we around here stuck, not even taking a chance to look at what else is out there.
Mm-hmm. So Duma. When you talk about, and I think it's very important, and those are some, when you talk about breathing, that's some simple things that people can do anytime, anywhere, at their house, at their job, office, whatever. Take a break. So with the cell, how does that oxygen affect that cell? With the, what I mean, when you get into those techniques, so and we try. It sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong. We're trying to actually get that light going back in that cell. I'm saying it in simple terms. With the stagnation.
That's not simple. That's straight. That's straight up. Yeah.
Yeah. Because with the stagnation of all the stuff that we're doing to damper that, so we're trying to bring light back into that. So by this breathing techniques is just aiding as another tool, along with the sun, and aiding it in bringing fire back to these cells. Is that okay. What we're doing here?
Yes. Now let me just tell you, my personal practice. I do mainly 3 types of breathing. I do a breathing called Okinaga, right? That's a Japanese breath. And then I do a Dumo breathing. That's a Tibetan, a Chinese, breathing technique. And then I do Nadi Shuddhi, which is coming out of the yoga system. Now, each one of those breaths do something different. But the commonality between all of them is they bringing sunlight into your body, so now it can charge your cells with energy and light. They know in the Hindu system, the yogic system, they got this concept called prana, which is called the life force. You have in the Asian, the Far East Asian system, Japan, Vietnam, North Korea, South Korea, Tibet, China, Cambodia, all those down there, they have chi. They talk about chi. So what these people have identified is that the light and the energy from the sun that's in the air, and the air is charged with energy, and it's called oxygen. You breathe in air, and your air content that you breathe in, 80% is nitrogen and 20% is oxygen. That's what the atmosphere in your room right now, that's what you're breathing in. So you're only getting 20% of what you're getting, breathing in is now being used to charge all your cells. You don't absorb oxygen. The body can't absorb it, so just go not in. So you're trying to get oxygen. Oxygen is O2, 2 molecules of oxygen. So that means that the whatever the ring around the molecule, the atom, is doubled now with electrons.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
And that is the most stable form of that element.
Okay.
It comes as O2. It's got to be 2 molecules. Like you got H, 2 what? O.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's the stable form that now link up with hydrogen. Now we call that water. Okay. So when you breathe, in these systems coming out of the East, Asia, they're talking about prana. You're going to increase your prana, or you're going to increase your chi. So I say it in the morning, just about every morning. I may do a combination of the 3, or I might just choose one, depending on how my body's responding to the environment. I set my clock for 5:45 in the morning. Boom, I'm up, I'm going to sit. Sitting for half an hour, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, maybe an hour, it depends. That's how I get my day started. Some days I can focus my consciousness on a certain direction. Some days it's like this, right? Every day is not the same. But what I keep constant is the breath. My mind is doing all kinds of stuff maybe. One day I might be over here, the next day I might be over there. Next day I have a session that is like, man, I'm in heaven. I'm there, right? Another day I'm like, I'm confused, all kind of stuff running in across my mind, but I have to kind of put it out and just keep focus on the breath. And I'll end up doing a half an hour. I thought it was 5 minutes because all my mind was going like this. And I look back, I'm finished. Oh, okay. But the constant is I'm bringing that chi, I'm bringing that prana, I'm bringing that oxygen, life force inside my body. And that's what gives me that edge. It's my breathing. I do some yoga, not a lot. I do like 4, 5, 6 different postures. Some days a little more, some days less. I do treadmill. I got some weights, a little bit of weights, perfect push-up, kettlebell, all that kind of stuff. I got that, right? But that's not going to save you. What's going to get you healthy and keep you healthy is the air that you breathe. And the thing is that if you bring that oxygen or that chi or that prana, don't forget you're going to bring that stuff to the brain.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
You like being sharp?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you want to be sharp and you want to stay on top of it, then you should bring something that kind of practice into your daily life. And it don't take. It's not. I mean, when I train people to do it, the first thing they do is I say take a deep breath, and they don't really know how to take a deep breath.
Right.
So I have to train them how to take a deep breath. If you can't take a deep breath, how you gonna get that energy? How you gonna get that light, right? How you gonna get that light in your mind? You don't know how to breathe.
Right, right. I remember years ago when they talk about that. We all day long, most people take these little short breaths all day, never expanding the lungs at all. And getting rid of any of these toxins. We in the house, these fibers from the carpet and all the rest. I used to tell people about, how you see, when the sunlight come through your window and you see all those little particles flying around, you
Mhm.
inhaling all that stuff all day
That's it.
when you're
Yeah.
inside.
But you see, sometimes if you go outside, if you might have a moment when you see those little things going around in the air. You had that?
Mm-hmm.
You see that? Maybe once in every blue moon, you can see it, right? All that
Mm-hmm.
energy flowing around outside.
Yeah.
That's
Mm-hmm.
prana. That's chi. Okay. The Okinaga breathing is 2 breaths a minute.
Whoa, Jack.
No, no, no. The people who in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
the masters is 30 seconds in and 30 seconds out.
I think I did it a couple times. I was trying to do good at 4.
Okay.
4.
So just
Mm-hmm.
start it wherever you are. In 4, out 4. If you find it's like, okay, let me try again. Let me try 5. In 5. Okay. I do 15. But some I have bad days and I'm struggling at 15. I
Yeah,
have days,
doing it 15 reps. You talking about?
no, 15 counts in, seconds in, and 15
Okay,
counts. Okay.
okay, okay.
Now, there's some days I'm having difficulty. So if I'm really having difficulty, I switch. I do another type of breathing. If I can't relax myself, but that breathing, you have to, it's almost like jumping into the pool, right? You got to hold your breath. And
Yes.
you got to stay focused. You can't be like,
Mm.
no, you got to be here. You can't be anywhere else. In those days I can't be here, I try it, I stop. I go to something else.
Mm.
But you got to
So,
be there
15 seconds in,
and
15
15
seconds
out.
out. Okay.
Okay. That's my like where I'm at. I can some days I can push to 20, but I just kind of like, okay, I ain't trying to, there's no race. I ain't no, and there's no reward, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have to quiet myself down and be here, just be in that moment, and then it just flows. Your body will do tremendous, I mean, wonderful things if you let it. You get this out the way, right? It will do all
Mm-hmm.
these wonderful things for you, but this blocks it, right? So that's one breathing that I do. The basic thing is to realize that you're breathing. If you breathe like a baby, you can have more power.
Breathe like a baby. Explain.
Okay. You've had children before? You've had
Oh
children
yeah.
that
Oh
you
yeah.
raised? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Now tell me if you've ever had this experience. You got like a 4-month-old baby you're holding up by your face, and all of a sudden they grab a hold of your face or your jaw or your ear or something,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they start pulling so hard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You got to kind of fight them off. We got to kind
Mm-hmm.
of peel them off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Huh? You
Yeah.
be like, God dang, what the heck? And you peel it off, and you're looking at this baby, that big, right? The muscles are not developed. The bones are like little gristle, weak things,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So what did they grab? Where's the power coming from?
Okay. Okay. Got your point. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that power is coming because they breathe from here, from the center,
Stunning
from
from
the
the
lower abdomen.
right.
They breathe like that. They don't have any other way to breathe. So they centered. And so when they reach out to grab something, because they don't have a calibration in their head, they just I'm gonna grab this. This is my father, or this is my uncle. I'm gonna grab him. But they don't know how much or how less. And so they just grab him with chi. And you like, it's embarrassing because you're trying to pull this little kid off and you're having trouble trying to get him off your face or your ear. And you be like, what the hell? Okay. They are grabbing with chi. They're not using physical force. There's nobody explained that to me. I didn't understand that until I started dealing with, this medicine. I've had that experience a couple of times in my life. I couldn't explain it. Like you try to logically kind of separate it out. Like they were holding harder than you. You're a grown man with these muscles. They were holding harder than you on your face. There's no logical way you can even spin that. So what are they using? They're using their breath. They're using their chi. They're using their prana. They're using their life force. They call it in the Kemetic system, it's called a Ra force. They're using that. That's all they know. They don't know anything else. So if that force is so powerful and it's coming through, you know how you see the sumo wrestlers, they look like baby Hueys, right, with a diaper, right?
Yeah.
And we laugh at them over here. Look at them big dudes over there. They stand up there going like this with these diapers on, with these big fat stomachs. Well, that's the epitome of chi. Those guys are the rock stars. All the women want to go out with those guys.
Okay.
They're the Mac Daddies.
Hey, you say that somebody's interpretation of beauty might be in another culture might be something
completely different. Completely different. The women love them because they got power, but it's not the kind of power you're thinking of. Okay. So in the Asian system, the stomach is like that's in the Japanese, they call it the hara, right? Your belly breathing, your breath, your strength, it comes from your hara. And men who have hara, they have, if you're strong and you're powerful, you got big hara, right? And this is what they think. This is what they talk. We got the opposite. We're going to have big chest, little stomach. They look at us and say, "Oh, look at them puny people over there. They're puny." That's what they say.
See, that's what you hit on what I was going to say in one of my questions. Or comments I was going to say about how we getting it all wrong in Western society.
Science is cultural. I mean, it's different. I don't care what you say. Western science do not have the last word. They can make machines. They can do all this stuff. Everything that they create, these machines, most of the stuff that we're dealing with right now is closed system phenomena. And they fighting to keep this system. You see how unsustainable the system is. If it becomes unsustainable and they got to keep feeding it and they don't know how to tap into the natural energy, it's a closed system. The energy on the earth, if we had an open understanding of how to create, a sustainability, man, we'd be riding around here like on air.
And see, and that's and that's when we're dealing with and talking about Tesla back in the day, and see, and that make me think about when I'm looking at it. I looked at oxygen. I know it's something that we need in the relationship to the trees and things like that, and how important it is. But when what you're talking and your analogy of what we talking about and dealing with sun waves, oxygen, and dealing with energy in the air is making me think about oxygen in a totally different perspective now. And you hear people talking about they're breatharians, whatever you call them. They're just living off of the air. Now you can see that. I can see how that's possible now.
Okay, that goes me to the next point.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's say, what is the most efficient way to extract energy out of the universe that you live in? Hold on.
Okay.
Because everything that you consume has energy, so they count it in calories.
Oh, right. Okay.
Calories mean heat, right? Calor, right? Spanish, right? So they count the amount of heat that it generates, right? So if I got to go out and work, I'm going to spend calories. Then I'm going to bring a piece of paper that's a representation of the calories I expended.
Okay.
Then I'm going to take that to a store and I'm going to give this piece of paper, and then they're going to give me some food. Now I got to go home. I got to prepare the food. Maybe I got to expend some calories. And then if I don't own if I can't make a fire, I got to pay the gas company or the electric company. There's more calories going out, right? Now I got to spend all this time and then I'm going to only recoup. When I eat, I'm only going to recoup just a little bit of the calories in there because it's not going to be clean, because I got to get some of it going to go waste, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I retain some. Now, if you ask me, that's a very ineffective system. When all you can do is open your mouth and breathe in the calories, the heat.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Because you're breathing in the oxygen, which has the electrons on it, that has the
Right.
photo is fire. Photo energy is the sun. So you're standing just as you were talking about a breatharian.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible.
It's possible. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible. There's people. I was watching YouTube or somewhere. This 76-year-old Indian guy. He had never ate in his life. I mean, before like 50 years or something like that.
In more of his adult life. Uh-huh.
And they would all question him, how's the guy surviving? He said, I don't eat.
See, and okay, so would it be safe to say? Because I know even when you trying to juice and things like that, they talk about cold press, juices and dealing with that energy that you might be losing some of that vitamin K or whatever. They want you to drink the juices right away sometime, and then maybe the relationship to actually, the creator is a wonderful the creator. I mean,
Yes.
he's just marvelous, wonderful. I said he. I'm sorry, ladies. I'm just
Yes, she is.
is
Yes, she
that
is. Yes, she is. She is beautiful.
yeah, but picking that, I revert back to a statement that I thought was pretty powerful that resonated with me in the movie Phenomena, when John Travolta said, "When I eat this apple, it becomes a part of me." And so I relate that to taking that fresh fruit and vegetable, and it's been kissed by those rays of the sun and all that live energy. That's why we speak on the vegetarian this type of a diet, because it has all that heat energy for what you're referencing right now, to help this electrical body that we have, versus, like you said, killing something, draining the blood, putting it in that saturated oil and frying it. How you think that's going to work with your body optimally?
You're eating energy that is so low with vitality.
Okay, got you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll never be able to get out and see your situation, because you're dead in your senses, so you can't see. So all you're doing is you're sustaining yourself until you go on this food that just, it ain't taking you nowhere. You ain't going nowhere. You're in a cog in a machine, and you're doing it. Somebody created the machine. Somebody said this is the oil for the machine, and that's what you're doing. Never once do you look up to see. If you do, you might have a minute of it, but I gotta close that down. That's not possible. You self-censor. So many people do that. Mm-hmm. They see the inkling of the possibility, but they close it down. So I can't go there because that's dangerous. Okay? We live in a system. Don't forget, the system is designed in such a way that it's perpetuating an unsustainable way of eating, an unsustainable way of farming, an unsustainable way of living, a completely unsustainable way. It's not going to be, at some point, when they always look at the future, they see what they call it, dystopia. Whenever they think of the future. Okay. This dude, what is the Tesla guy that made the Tesla car? Every time he talk about AI, what is he talking about? You've seen those things, right? They got it all.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. So he's all worried because it's going to be a dystopia, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That the AI is going to take over and do
Oh,
something to us and all this stuff, right? This is in his mind. He's locked into that energy. He can't see anything outside of that. That AI could be a gift to mankind. Why not? Or it could be what he's talking about.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It depends on what you want to do with it. But if you want to treat it like we do in the current economic philosophical system, meaning that the philosophical system is religion. Okay, let me just kind of break it out. Your philosophical system that you use is your religion. It's how you see the world. It's your cosmology.
Mm-hmm.
So that system would support capitalism in all its different ways. There's an idealistic idea in that philosophy of how capitalism should work to help mankind and all that, but it never worked. It's always been a justification. That justification never worked because it always greed overrode everything, and power and avarice and just overrode everything. So it never worked. So it was never even system sustainable. And people say,
Mm-hmm.
well, we got the best standard of living in the world. At what cost and how sustainable is this?
Ooh. See,
Okay?
we're not even thinking in those terms, Dumisani,
Well, that's
of
what you got to.
sustainability and long term. I mean, but us is, when I speak of us, what I'm concerned about a lot is, and where the issues are is in our community, African American
You know
community.
what? Hold on, bro. Hold on. This is what I say all the time. You know what? We, when you flush your toilet, where it go?
I'm sewer somewhere.
Is it a black sewer
Same
or white
place.
sewer?
The same place everybody
Okay.
else is.
When you turn on your water tap, does that water tap say black or
Yeah.
does it say white?
I understand what you're saying.
When you breathe that air, that air
It
got
ain't black or white.
there's Afrocentric air and then there's white racist air. Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, you're right about the impact. You're right about the impact on
Yeah.
the people who are least able to sustain or have a control of their life. Yes,
Right.
yes, you're
Yes. That's
absolutely
what I.
right.
That's what I mean. Yes.
Okay,
Exactly.
I understand. I understand what you mean. But that's
Hmm.
why I say the philosophy that we bought into, that colorism, is it gets up in our mind that we separate.
Hmm.
We're not separate. We're not separate. And if you keep thinking you're separate, they now have more control over you because they don't have to worry about you crossing any of the barriers or lines that they set up
Yeah.
for you. You stay there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you see
Okay.
what they did to Fred Hampton. When he
Hey,
called, you cross a couple of barriers. That's too
hey,
powerful,
see,
bro.
you see, that's the deal. And they and
Mhm.
the people who you know what, they have denigrated our culture, have denigrated our life. They have denigrated Africa. Anything that we touch, they've denigrated. So the question now, because of the emotional feelings that we have based on that, we have a reaction to them, meaning the system. Well, that system is just as corrosive to you as it is to a white person or Asian person or to an Indian. It's corrosive.
I see.
Now, okay, now some people are getting the benefits of the corrosive system, and so they're just looking for now. We got it, so we're gonna live, and we ain't gonna think about nobody else. They call that zero-sum game. But a zero-sum game is not sustainable. Because just like when you do the musical chairs, they keep taking the chair away.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got all these people standing, you got one person on the chair. All those people standing gonna go grab that chair from that one person and rip it apart. Because they're not gonna stand there and see themselves die, and this guy got all the goods. Come on.
That's right.
That's what's happening in the world right now. Because the 99%, the 1% is on. I mean, I ain't got to give you the story, So that filters down into everything that you do, your health system, your how you maintain your health, everything. So you have to be very clear on that. Most people, and when I say most people, we fashion all kind of strategies to deal with this. and some are better than others because we're very creative. So we create all these strategies how to minimize the negative impact of the system that we find ourselves in.
That's right. That's right. So,
And
so Doc.
I ain't hating. I ain't hating. I mean, if you find a solution in this unsustainable world, fine. Okay? I'm okay with that. I ain't hating. But just be clear that you're reinforcing the closed system that eventually will fall apart. So I mean, but you got to make a choice. And so people get into the hard tack. You know, I want to live. I don't want to be over there and die. So they make a decision. I ain't hating. You do you. That's what I say. Okay.
So
that's what I say.
So Doc, we don't want to give them too long. You know,
That's 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
That's a long time, bro.
Yeah, they can get it in pieces, and so we talked about, and I enjoyed it because I learned something from this, and I can really look at things in a different way, and understanding, and hopefully our listeners would see too. It's always about putting it all together and looking at things holistically, and we both agree that the system that we own, like you just been said, repeated several times, is unsustainable, and it's not working in its short term. So suggestions, at this particular point, what can we do in being confined in these different constructs that we're in right now, and
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, there's a couple of different ways. Well, one of the ways is the most basic is to have resources, right? If you can control some resources, then you can control your life. Resources take money. So that means you have to have money. And so you have to figure out a way to get money. The other thing is that education can bring you wealth and can bring you resources. Okay. So those two things are really important in terms of the sustainability of a community. You need resources and you need education. So, and I'm not talking about, just going to somebody to get educated. You have to educate yourself. I suggest you do go get some, higher education, hook or crook, however you can get it, because there's a lot of free universities out there. You have an inquisitive mind. People now get degrees. I mean, with degrees and so forth and so on, and they owe all this money and they can't get a job. So, what's the utility of going somewhere, spending all that time and that money and never being able to, recoup anything from that? So they have all these free universities. You can learn anything right now on the internet on these free universities, top quality courses. You can learn anything. So I would say, go get yourself an education. I don't care where you are on the planet, go get an education. The next thing is that education should help you understand the resources that are available around you so you can generate some resources for others, and so you create a sustainable community. Those are the basic things. Now, the other thing is a little deeper, and that means that once you start walking down that road of sustainability and gathering resources, you're going to run up against this idea at some point that you need to change your consciousness and understand that the systems are closed and you're trying to create a sustainable and open system. And so you have to start changing your consciousness. And it depends on how fast you change your consciousness, how rigorous you are, how disciplined you are, but that consciousness has to change. And because you can't take the old consciousness into a sustainable world. You can't. So when you can't take that. You're not going to make the new sustainable world with the tools back over here. You can't bring it. You can't drag that. You can use some of them, but
hey Doc, would it be safe to say, I can't create a sustainable self either, based on the practices and things that is being thrown at you, that you see out here on TV and how they marketing to you?
There's no separation. There's no separation. You are the universe. You are the economic system. You are the political system. You are the social system. You are the spiritual system. I mean, if you don't understand that, you don't understand who you are. Now, there are different ways to go about it. I mean, you can stand up and grab a microphone and yell at everybody to, I got some answers, so come with me. You know, if you want to take that on, that's one way. Other way is just to, you know, each person that you meet, you give them something that they could walk away with and give them something that maybe they can teach somebody else. That's another way. Depends on your approach. I mean, there's a lot of different approaches. So no one way approach is going to get it. I mean, the day of leaders standing in front of people, extorting them to follow this and that, that's passe. That ain't going to happen. People try to do that, you know, that's a feel good social thing, but that's not anything that's going to really make that happen.
Yeah, that's, you know, it's I think you know, for our listeners, you know, it's a journey, and you're gonna have to step up and take that extra time, and you're gonna have to relinquish and give up some of the things that you might have been, you know, accustomed to in those that leisure time, man, and educating yourself. It depends on where you are and where you want to go with this thing. You know, I want to live, and I understand that, you know, it's because the system lures so much in believing that in 80, 90, I got to be broke down. I got to be on a whole bunch of doggone meds and everything. That's the norm, and you almost psychologically, you know, on put it in your mind. I'm old, but the cells rejuvenate themselves every so many 120, 100, whatever days or what have you. You
Well,
know,
they got a new
and
science. They got this old science out there. We're going to end, but they got this new science. It's kind of new and old stem cell research. And stem cells, they looking at that as being the promise of the future. I just went and bought this book just to read what this guy is talking about, called Life Force. He ain't talking.
Okay.
He's just talking about stem cells.
Okay.
Okay, that's all it is. It's just about stem cells. It's somebody doing something to your cells and putting it back inside your body. I thought it was going to be something else. You're just selling that idea to people and try to get on stems. And not that it can't help, but he's selling the ideas. Your life force is going to be in this thing, this mechanical thing that will change your life. I read it. I'm reading it. And it's interesting to read, but you know, it's not something that's going to really change your life because you know you got to change your concept of what life is. Okay.
Good point. Yeah, that's where I'm at right there. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the, you know, so even if people, I don't want to get into it, but the people talk about what life is and abortion is and abortion that or anti that. What is it? What is life and where does it start and where does it begin? Okay. What do you call life? So these are questions that we, you know, the quote, the philosophical basis that people use is either, you know, their religion. That's what they're using. They're not using, they're not using a logical, rational understanding of what is life. I mean, if you want to talk about abortions, I would say cut the guy's thing off. Why? Because he's misusing it. Right?
Ooh, yeah.
He's using it. He got a tool. He's misusing it. He's putting it in a little hole. When the woman come up, that's her problem. That's her problem. That's her problem. She got to do something. We got to do something to her. What about the man? Go do something to him. Make him stand up. Make him accountable. Do something to him. Well, we're going to do a vasectomy. You can undo it, but you ain't going to get it undone until you serve your time. Meaning that you can't impregnate nobody, you know, just willy-nilly. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know,
that's too much control to give to society, because then the men lose their power, you know.
Yeah.
So why we gonna blame women and give them all kind of, you know, come on, that's
a male dominant, masculine, patrilineal thinking.
That's a gender control mechanism.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, gender control.
Dumisani, I'm not going to hold you no longer. I appreciate your time here, but you kind of wrapped it up and gave me a conclusion. But you know, if anything you want to add to that, you know, just give our folks, listeners, some advice, and what system that you found to be more promising than others that they can maybe do some research on.
I would say go east, study east, because they got it in books, they got tradition, study east, and then bring that back to Africa. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and look at Africa. Don't do any judgment of this, that, or the other. Take an open mind and look at these other systems, and then look at them in Africa. And so there's a continuity what's in those systems in the East with what's happening in Africa. But we don't do it that way. We get caught up in just trying to you know many of us just I mean, we're so starved of our culture, we just jump and just like anything. And I mean, you got to really sit down and understand that the world at one point there was a similarity between all the cultures,
Right.
and some people held on to some things and other people lost things, and so you just have to study the world and figure out what is available. And some things in Europe were retained and some things were lost, and some things in Africa were retained and some things were lost. Some things in India were retained and some of those things were lost. Some things in Christianity were retained, but some things were
Mm-hmm.
lost. But you
Mm-hmm.
got to have a thread underneath that can, so when you look at these systems you can see
You
it.
tie them all together, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
you go to the East and start looking at the systems, go look at the systems, and then come back and look at African systems, and then you look at European systems. These people get caught up. I'm a black Hebrew Israelite. I'm a Kemetic person. I'm in the Ghanaian culture. I'm a Yoruba culture. And I ain't hating. It's great you got something. Now go look. Go open your eyes up. Go look around the world. See what else is going on. That's all.
And they'll probably be amazed to see how it all ties in, a common thread. They just call it a different name, different way of doing anything, but those roads lead down to the same goal there. What they're
There's
trying
some
to do.
sustainable practice in another country somewhere else that you can use to help your community.
Hmm. For sure.
Okay.
All right,
All
but
right, bro.
brother Dumisani, I
Thank you.
appreciate you, brother,
Thank
again.
you. Thank you.
For coming on the
All right.
podcast
All right.
and delivering us some good information, brother. I
Doc,
appreciate you, man.
listen. I don't consider this to be like a podcast. We having a conversation.
Conversation.
Yeah, we having a conversation.
Conversation.
Yeah,
Right, right.
that's all. We having a
Absolutely,
conversation.
brother.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't
Thank
even. I don't even think. I think it's like you and I are just having a conversation, and ain't nothing about trying to. We talking to each other.
That's
If
right,
somebody
brother.
want to listen in on the conversation,
Right
that's
on.
fine. That's fine with me if they want to listen on the conversation. But I'm having a conversation. Me and you are having a conversation. I ain't trying to
Right.
address. I
Yeah.
ain't trying to address the world. Like I got this. I got. Nah, I ain't even into that. I'm just talking to you. I'm talking to you, and you talking to me. We having a conversation.
Right, and
Okay.
that's what was going to be the title before I finally set on the journey. It was going to be conversation. That's what I wanted, just us dialoguing, brother.
Or the conversational journey of Hamptonio.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. Well, I appreciate you, brother,
All right.
and
All right.
I'll be coming back at you, my brother.
Okay. All right. I'm
You
here. I
have
ain't going nowhere. Okay.
all right,
Peace.
my brother. Peace
All right.
out, man.
Peace. Catch up.
Peace.
Okay.
Hold tight,
Okay.
man. Yes, sir, my family. I appreciate you you guys tuning in, like I said, to our conversation because we just kicking it in, and I don't know about you, I definitely learned something in my approach because I think if we look at that Eastern philosophy, which my good brother agreed that I think you can get a lot out of the Eastern philosophy, versus where we are right now, and I think it tends to be more close to nature and sustainable. If we follow those guidelines, I think we'd be in a better place. And I say, and in the end, by saying this, look, the little time that this system and this type of theology and philosophy been in power, look at the destruction and the problems that we're having all over the planet in this little bit of time. So if you like what we're doing, you can subscribe and keep tuning in to the journey and following in. And we got some things coming on the trail. I got some things we're gonna talk about. Folks want to talk about the police officer situation. We can talk about that as well. And what I do like is we starting to study more because brother Kanye and Kyrie got us studying a little bit more, and that's a good thing. So again, I appreciate you guys being on this journey. Stay tuned, stay plugged in, and I'm gonna try to keep this thing going, more and more. and getting you guys connected and on this journey. So I would say with that, just free our minds so we can change our consciousness. Peace out. Put this shit on here. Let's see.